Alright, here we go. I got everything together eventually. Okay, I remember what was going on. I've seen most of the rooms in this level. Found a few of them to be kind of impossible. I guess I should retry those. And if I can't figure them out, then maybe I should try a different level. But first, because I noticed this last time, there's clearly something here. A couple more rooms past the dark. Alright, so here, something is going on. We just need to hit all 3 of these orbs. So these orbs expressly require that facings be a certain way. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to go in to let the mimic go in alone. I don't think that could work. But then how am I supposed to actually change the way anyone is facing now? I don't think it's possible to do that. Hello. Yeah, there is absolutely no way I can turn anyone's weapon once on these hot tiles. Even if I tried to do something with stunning one of them with a stick, that wouldn't help. Because if they're stunned, then they can't move, and so they just die on the hot tile. So I can't see any way how this is supposed to be possible. Dies. There's no way to turn its weapon. This is this is survivable, but doesn't help. This absolutely cannot help. Because nothing like this is ever going to put a stick onto this orb. unless someone has found a way to use a stick to go past a force arrow, I don't see how this could ever be possible. Because there is objectively no way for either Beethro or the Mimic to turn as long as they're on the hot tiles. And this room is designed in a way that you have to turn at least once. No Ormites or anything. I was trying to see if this was like there's a cracked wall somewhere that I can break or something, but there isn't. There's really no tools in this room that would let you hit the third one. I could pick a different set of facings, but that wouldn't matter. Because the whole problem is I cannot turn anyone's sword. Or stick, in this case. Not while they're on the hot tiles. I can do that, but there's absolutely no way that this can help either. This does not solve the actual problem. Yeah, I know. I'm just casting about for things that seem plausible. Because I really don't see anything else that could possibly work, besides there being some way to get off of the hot tiles. Supposed to make that happen somehow. That does move both parties. Although getting into a position to do that with things available is very difficult. Just very tricky to even get into that position. So it's not something you can readily stumble into unless you're really trying to do it. Okay. So what are we doing here? There's a solace in this room. Looks like it just functions as an anti-mimic, like going in the exact opposite direction. So this is a race of some sort. Yeah, we used to do a good thing. So the outer ones are doubled. You want to set things up to take advantage of the symmetry. So that the mimic and anti-mimic can get in there quickly. Do something like that. But I also have to somehow at the same time put a third brain in. I'm not really sure that can work at the same time. This requires a completely different set of movements from the other two. That's the only way to do that. Is if you spend the turns doing exactly that set of moves. There's no way that set of moves can also work for the middle. I think it was basically just whatever at this level is done, or was done when I started. So basically everything except these two secret rooms. A lot of exploring and a lot of getting very stuck on the rooms here you can see that I haven't done. I got very annoyed with this room. It really feels like the black door should be up here, where you don't have to fiddle around with avoiding the eyes the entire time you're trying to set up a very extremely finicky situation with all of the notes. Just my feeling. I'm gonna have to go confront that annoyance at some point anyway. Yeah, there's not even enough room in this room to even set up what needs to be done here. I don't think there's enough time to do this. Like, the only set of moves that will get two of the brains into position is a bunch of diagonal moves, and then an orthogonal one like this. But there is absolutely no way for the third brain to be moved into position by doing that. There's just not enough space for that. Diagonal moves would have to... they'd have to go to, like, here. And there's no diagonal path to here. Like, there's a wall directly in the way of the path you would have to take. And because of the timer, there's only exactly enough room to do precisely this exact thing. You can't do anything else. Maybe B-throw has to be the one over on this side. Like it's supposed to be doing this. I don't think that can work either, but... This can't work either. Do any good for the brain to go over here instead? Doubt it. This actually worked with the brain. I thought that was what I tried earlier. Maybe I misremembered. Yeah, don't I just need to... Well, that almost does it. There's not really any other ways to get the brain into the corner than this exact sequence of moves. Because the diagonal moves have to be pushing the brain. And if you try to make an orthogonal move before the very last one, then that's not going to be pushing the brain. Maybe I misunderstand the comment? But like, there's not other ways to do it because you have to be spending every possible turn pushing the brain until it's in position. I don't think there's a way that you can push the brain to the other one, because there isn't a direct path to this. There's a wall in the way. Like if I wanted to turn around and push the brain by going this way, there's a wall in the way here, and beyond that is a button which would be pressed down too soon if I had the brain positioned there. So I'm pretty confident this is the only set of moves that I can make to get the brains in the outer corners. Maybe we can do this. The anti-mimic is not really going to cooperate with that. Wait, what happened? I guess I need... Okay. It would work if I mess with the way the anti-mimic is facing. That. Now I just need to push it back into position. Which is going to be a thing. That's almost right. Okay, that works. So I can do this. I don't feel like this really helps, but I can do it. Yeah, so facing vertically is just going to result in the brain dying. Like, the thing that made the middle almost work when I had things in this direction is because when the mimic moved the brain, when I moved diagonally and the mimic was, like, pushing the brain, the thing that was useful is that it actually got stuck against the brain and kept going south. That's what makes it almost work facing facing east-west. Facing north-south is not helpful, because it just results in the brain dying, as far as I can tell. I guess I should double-check that. Facing this way, then the brain would just die because it will get that. I think there's somewhere else it could move the brain from besides that. Right, this trick is you're moving towards it and pushing it at the same time. Which just doesn't work if it's north-south. I'm not really sure I understand why it doesn't work north-south when it works east-west. I think this must be some kind of vertical preference thing. Right. When the mimic wants to go diagonally, and it can't, it will always favor sliding vertically over sliding horizontally. If this worked, it would result in the mimic sliding horizontally against the brain and pushing the brain west. But it will not work that way because of vertical preference. Even though you normally don't think of mimics when you're talking about vertical preference, that's why that doesn't work in that direction. Not that I think it would be helpful, but if instead of... So what I've been doing is facing into the corner. I don't think it's possible to do this facing out of the corner. No, you'll wind up killing the brain or taking too long. You try to do this facing out of the corner. The problem is that there's a wall in the way here. If I wanted to do this, really do this facing out of the corner, I'd need to do it this way. But there's no way to do that because the brain would have to be in a position that a wall is. So north-south won't work because of vertical preference on the mimic. West will not work, that is, west from the perspective of this corner. West can't work because there's a wall directly in the way of that path. Which means that into the corner, which is east from this perspective, is the only direction that works. I mean, vertically I can go horizontal and not vertical, but like if I'm here, I have to go vertically. I can't choose to go another direction if I'm doing this to move the brain. would be helpful for the mimic. The mimic doesn't have to face the same way that Beethro is facing. That should have been rather obvious. We'll try that. So first, get brains into visible positions. Also, hello. So get the brains in the right places. Now I need to change the anti-mimic's facing so that it will be south north, like that. And then I need to change the regular mimic's facing so that it will be, I guess, east when I'm north. That should be it. Then I need to change everybody's positioning to be correct. Mimic goes in the middle. Next to the brain, anti-mimic goes in a place. This is where the mimic needs to wind up, but the other two need to be in different places. My experience earlier taught me it's easier to bump the mimic against the brain in that position. So it needs to be okay, just move over one time. This should be over here. So I need to adjust where the mimic is to match that. There we go. It's rather satisfying to get right eventually, even if that was with a lot of hints. Well, I mean, it was at the usual time last week, I think. There we go. Well, I did these 2 secret rooms. Now can I go back into required rooms? I don't know. Those seem pretty hard. Alright, so let's start with this one. I know exactly what I need to do in this room. It's just excruciatingly painful to try to do it. Because this is an explicit requirement that the mimics be in precisely the correct move order, and that they all push B-throw straight across. So B-throw needs to be north of the mimics, which need to be in the perfect move order, and all facing the same direction, and all right next to each other. That is extremely painful to make happen. So, in my opinion, this is already a hard enough set of things to achieve without also having to avoid ever walking in the middle. I think the black door that opens when you've cut all of the tar should be up here and not down there. I don't know, the room geometry is part of what makes it painful, though. It's like it's designed to be difficult to use. So that one goes first, which means that if I maintain their position relative to each other, then B-throw has to be in front of number 6 by the end. I mean, yeah, I think I tried those. They're just also kind of a pain to reach. Maybe there just should be something in between, some place between where the eyes are and where the decoys are that you can just walk across from east to west. Otherwise, it's just such a pain to get anywhere. Like, without stabbing half of the mimics anyway. How did that even happen? I don't remember placing those two out of order. That's not really possible, but sure. The only way to even cut a corner wall in the first place is by getting the mimics out of formation so that they're not in B-throw's way. Because the mimics are forced to start north of B-throw. To get north of the mimics, you have to put them out of formation. That's part of what makes this room such a pain. We need a perfectly straight row of mimics from either east to west or west to east, all facing like this, so that Beethro can step in and they can push. Like, you need to do this, basically, and Beethro needs to be standing up against, like, basically standing here somewhere. I don't really know what other formation there is. The goal that needs to be achieved explicitly requires only one specific thing. I have to move and be pushed all the way across. Hilarious. Isn't quite the same trouble that I was having before, but it is about really annoying. You know, if I had this, if I was like this, but horizontal instead of vertical, that would work. Maybe that's better. That seems like it might be less of a pain. Let's think about this. The one that goes first, what was I just doing? Yeah. So if I want that to work, this is the one that goes first. So the one that goes first should be at the end of the chain, closest to B throw. Okay, that's not different from what I was thinking, I think. So the one that goes first should be as far north as possible. Get B throw to the far north without screwing up now. Is that a copy of it? Not sure. Entirely sure how to get B throw north of this mess. It should be possible, I think. Try and place it in a different I'd really like it if they were up against the wall when I got to the trap door. I'm not sure I can make that happen. Actually, this is fine. I can get north of it like this. I just need to get to the same east-west position, which is definitely an ask. Not really much to golf up against. Okay, that has to be how this is supposed to work. That works way too well. I I can't imagine this being intended to work any other way. That's unreasonably effective. Okay. That's really cool. It's just kind of annoying to try to get things in the right position. It also doesn't help if you have the wrong idea of which way to do it. Okay, now this room... how is this even remotely supposed to work? There's... like, you have to get the guard to kill the queens. The start of the room. But you kind of need to walk into it because you can't put mimics south of you when you start. I'm not necessarily sure what you mean by the start. But anyway. Yeah, so... I don't see how I'm supposed to get this guard to kill both of those queens. Like, clearly I have to, because I'm not allowed into the area and the queens can't be because of the mimic potions. But first of all, if the guard ever leaves the area, it's impossible to make him go back in. And secondly, once the queens are like in a corner somewhere, the guard can't kill them. Or he won't. He refused to. Not really anything that can, like, block the guard's path to make him want to do something different. I guess I can kill that queen. Now there's basically nothing I can do. Because the guard is never going to turn his sword north to kill the other queen. And there's no way to make that other queen go south. I really don't see what I'm supposed to be able to do here. I guess the guard won't pathfind over mimic potions. Is supposed to be the point here. But that doesn't really help with the actual problem of the queen being in the corner where he won't kill it. I don't think coming in from this side really helps either. He's not going to kill a queen in that corner either. If I try to go coax things into a better position, he'll just walk over the mimic potion and fall on it. As far as I can tell, it would take the queen being in a position in the middle of the little room. Like being in the middle of this 4x4, which is not really possible to make happen. One south, one west. Go that one. did I do here? Oh yeah, I kind of remember while I was doing this one, I kept being like, there must be a more efficient way to do this. I'm sure there's a better way. I wound up kind of awkwardly stumbling around and then doing this to get to where I was standing on a door. Oh yeah, what made this awkward is that I kept winding up in positions where there was a roach like on the door that couldn't move anymore. So I had to kind of try several times to get that right. And that's why I looked up someone else's demo afterwards, being like, there has to be a quicker way. Which there is. That's the highest scoring, lowest moves one from March 8th, apparently. Anyway. So, like, the only way I can think of for the guard to willingly stab this queen is if the queen is in the middle, or at least in the south side. But if I try to arrange things so that the queen is at least on the south side, that means coming in on this end. Which means that the guard won't kill the west queen, and there's no way to actually go and fix things because, well, now if I try to walk across, the guard will just come out of the cage. Like that. I forget exactly how it was, but I wound up in positions where... Oh, no, you can't, I wound up in positions where there was, like, roaches over here or something, and I couldn't find a way to lure them out. Or I didn't think there was a way. Maybe I was just not thinking about it right. At a glance, I thought that I couldn't kill them, so I thought I needed to retry and hit the orb another way. Yeah, the guard's never going to kill the queen if it's up there. He'll never go that far north. Well, I guess if it was in the other corner, he might do something, but he's not going to do that. It'd be useful to flood the room with roaches. I don't think so, because he'll just stab his way right through them anyway. So I can't go across, which is what I need to do, is go across, but I can't. Yeah, so as far as I can tell, it's completely impossible for me to go across here, across this middle part here, without the guard leaving and becoming unusable for killing the queens. Or anything else for that matter. And that creates a problem for numerous reasons. Since not only can I not push the queen around to help the guard kill it, I also can't, for example, if this queen winds up down here, then there's nothing I can do with it. I don't know, I'm sure there must be some reason why there is a queen that's accessible to me at the start of the room. But I just don't see what that reason is supposed to be. Like, I guess this can maybe send roaches up to a place where they'll try to block the guard. guard's always in a position where it can escape, right? Like, it can escape because it can stab its way through any obstructions. Like, the only thing I can use to try to block him is roaches, but it'll just stab any roaches that are in his way, so it does not really help. I can do this, but if I try to go back over to lure the guard, then to go back. And if I flood that room with things without playing. This kind of seems to work. Alright. I guess this is a bit less complicated than I was thinking. I'm not sure exactly how best to clean up the last few roaches. If I try to do anything like that, definitely needs to spawn at least twice, or 3 times. Pretty much need the entire wall to be there. I guess I just need to be more careful about that. Okay. Yeah. That's a fairly accurate description of a lot of puzzles. It's just that making the right wish can be very hard. Figuring out what the right wish to make is very hard. Let's see. I struggled for a while to try to figure out what this room is even trying to ask me to do. So, it needs to go there, at the end. Then, so as I recall, this is a giant annoyance because the square you're allowed to occupy is very, very too small and full of bombs. But basically I had not too much trouble killing the eye down here. Or no, killing something. And the trick is something to do with facing. Right? If I turn, then I turn to face a certain direction. And then the mimic will also turn. So what I need to do is make sure that when I turn the right way, the mimic also turns the correct way. So like this, so that I'm facing south. So this one is fine. I can figure this out. But as far as I can tell, there's no way for, like, Letha to survive entering the other one, no matter what I do. Because I can't turn to do this. I can only move to go in. So either I'm moving directly to go in, or I'm moving to make the mimic move to push Letha in. But no matter which of those two I do, I'm always going to be facing east. And so there's no way to actually go in. think I found that I could have the mimic go and like shove the eyes around. That doesn't actually help. Like I can do this, that doesn't help. There's not enough room or leverage or whatever to actually push the eyes completely out of the room. No, it's never going to be able to push that out of the way. You have to block both ways for it to be able to stab push that direction. So I don't think it's possible to extract the eyes from that movement. So the only way to kill them is if Ether goes in. Standing perfectly still and waiting for several turns isn't going to cause one of the eyes to come out. There's no way to give them a sight line to V-throw, because it would have to get at least as far as this tile to be able to see V-throw. Even just the east one would. The north one, forget it. You'd have to push it all the way out here for it to have a chance of seeing V-throw. And if I could do that, then I could just kill it, instead of needing to worry about waking it. So I can't push the eyes out, and I can't wake the eyes. So I don't really see what else there is. Why did that work this time? Is that vertical preference again? I guess so. I thought I was trying to do that before, but it must have been that what I was doing then was against vertical preference. Not making use of it properly. Only now there's nothing to press against to make it bump again. What I'm saying about... Oh, it's because I'm not moving. Okay. Never mind. I was thinking that I was needing to make the mimic bump by blocking all of its directions of movement. That's not what I was actually supposed to do. Alright. So now the mimic goes into... Yeah. Right, it's because the mimic needs to bump because B-throw is bumping, not because it's trying to move and can't. Those are distinct ways for bumping to happen, as far as I know among mimics. So this is one of 2 rooms that requires me to be able to do something that I just don't know how to do, which is a real problem. And basically the action I don't understand how to do. Like, the point of this setup at the beginning is to say, hey, if you push something over a token, it doesn't activate. So now we have a setup where I pretty much need to not activate a token going across here. So the problem I was having is that to do that, I pretty much need to be able to have the mimic push B-throw after he moves, I think. Trying to figure out positions. So I need to have B-throw move and then immediately be pushed by the mimic from where he moves to somewhere else. Like, I need to move onto this and be pushed off of this in the same turn, so that I can get through while still having a pickaxe in particular. Like, I don't think it matters which of the 3 I do that at. Though it may be that I need the mimic to go use the caver afterwards, so maybe the top one should be saved for the mimic. But the problem is, I don't know how to do that. Like, if... I'm having some trouble demonstrating it, but if I'm against a wall, then it's not too... Here we go, this. This move is not too hard if I'm up against a wall. But there's no wall to be up against with either of these. Like, I need to be actually, like, moving so that the mimic... You know, I need to move diagonally and have the mimic move horizontally. Or orthogonally in general, for that to work. But there's no way to do that over here. The only other way I could do, like, move and then be pushed is if the mimic's weapon was already on top of B-throw. That would be how I would do it if I had a stick. But I don't have a stick, so if I try to do that here, I'll just get stabbed. So, like, this is one of 2 rooms that requires you to somehow move and be pushed out in completely open space with nothing to bump against. With nothing for the mimic to slide against. The other one was this one. This one seems to require exactly the same thing. You need to use a pickaxe to get past the something by being pushed. So there's, like, I just don't know the move here. I tried every variation of things I could think of, but, like, I need to somehow get B-throw pushed by a mimic while in open space with a pickaxe. Like, that's the hard requirement of both this room and that other one. But in neither one could I find anything that remotely seemed like it could work. Like, the closest I can get is that I can do it down here where there's a wall to work with. Like that. But there's no way to do it without a wall. Notice anything about the trapdoors? No? One of them has a caber and the other 2 have daggers. I've concluded that I probably need the mimic to guess in theory I could just do that, except this still has a problem. Maybe I'm not right about what I need to do in this room. That would certainly explain my difficulties with it. I mean, I was certainly led to think that's what I'm supposed to do because of this little tutorial at the start. Like, surely that's relevant at some point. Doesn't seem particularly helpful. Looks like the mimic needs to come in too, anyway. This helps. No, I don't have a way to kill North Golem. Also, there's a pickaxe in there. I got confused in a really strange way for a second, because I was looking at this. You see this, the way that it looks right now, It looks like that's a caber token, because that's Beethro's caber over a dagger token. So for like a second I thought, why did I step on a caber token and get a dagger? Which is not actually what happened. Okay, so this isn't enough. I don't really know how to make sure that the other two die. Well, I think I can safely enough kill the north one. Like after I've shoved the mimic here, then it's easy for the mimic to kill that one. But now I don't have any dagger. Well, I have a dagger. I'm gonna just do that. Okay. Thank you for your services. You did a good job. Please stop ruining things. I guess I better have him walk back over. Okay. Alright, so I was very stuck on trying to do something that may not be possible and definitely wasn't actually required in that room. That explains my difficulty. I may as well look at the other one I thought required that. Although it's a bit of a walk to get to. Alright, so maybe I misunderstood what this room wants me to do as well. Well, I'm kind of doubtful. So here you have to do this. This is this forces you to take the mimic and the stick at the same time, which is good because that's what you want here, to be able to kill that image. So here I'm in a similar situation. I need to move and be pushed, because I have to hit the potion and the stick token at the same time. At least that's what I thought. But again, there's not really the right kind of leverage to let me actually do that, as far as I can tell. Oh well. Like, it has to be Beethro that gets pushed here because there are mimic potions specifically. But again, there isn't a wall to use to push against for this purpose. I don't really see what else I can do here. This room is pretty straightforwardly saying, look, here's a thing you can do, now go do it 2 more times, but with less help. I don't really see how to do it. Again, I don't know of any way to have a pickaxe push me through, other than there being a wall right next to it. There's not a mirror or anything I can use as an extra obstacle, though. And I'm pretty sure there was not something that would have been useful at the start. Not that I can see. There's just nothing here that I can use to make another obstacle. Like, the mimic won't move if Beaker's weapon is in the way, but there's not really any way that Beaker can move so that both these mirror needs to be to get pushed, and his weapon is in the way of the mimic trying to go diagonally. Like, those two conditions really can't be fulfilled at the same time. The entire point of being pushed is that Beaker is far away from the mimic, not close up to it. And to block the mimic's movement with a weapon, you have to be very close to it, like this close. Sure. But look, if I wanted to be pushed after moving northeast, the mimic would have to be directly to my south, not all the way over there. Like, the very act of moving so that Ether Hero's weapon is in the way of the mimic means that I'm actually too far away for it to ever push me. Okay, I guess that does work. I want to be clear, because I have a bad habit of doing this. Fairly often I'll say something that's wrong, or I'll say something like, sounds like arguing with whoever I'm getting hints from. I'm just sort of trying to explain to some extent why I haven't thought of that, or what my thought process is, or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong or whatever. It's just that, that's why something didn't occur. That's... This is a pretty cramped space to try to do that in. Okay, I need to make this particular V shape. Okay. And I just need to do it again, but it's vastly easier this time because I actually have a stick. Honestly, I almost wish I could do this in the other order. Like, it would be a better puzzle for teaching what it's trying to teach if you could do it the easy way first and the harder way second. Because as it is, it's vastly easier to get a stick onto the... it's easier to get a stick on top of the mimic than it is to get the pickaxe onto the mimic. There we go. Like with the pickaxe, you have to worry about accidentally killing the mimic. Well, not with the stick. So now, the mimic can take the sword. I'm not really sure what the point is of this last roach. I don't know of any leaks you could possibly perform that its presence prevents. I guess it makes it very clear that you're not allowed to kill the mimic. I did this one. So, I may as well do this one since I've been walking past it. The room of health. We'll look at that one after, I guess. So, Palf says some things. This door needs to be hit. Needs to be toggled twice at the same time every time it's activated. So at the beginning of the room, there's a thing that's, the thing that's going to activate at the start of the room is a mimic needs to press one of the orbs at the same time as the queen places a roach onto this plate.
Ow, that hurts!
Alright, I need to time that out. And then I need to kill all the roaches. Which I remember is slightly tricky, but not that hard. So the real problem comes a little bit
Ow,
later.
that hurts!
What I haven't been able to figure out yet comes later. So I can have this Fagundo eventually to kill.
Hey, I died! Ow, that hurts!
I don't remember having this much trouble with it, but right, I think I worked out that you really want to go northeast with this mimic.
Hey, I died!
Or sorry, northwest with this mimic. So that once the Fagundo comes out, it can just kill all of the roach queens, no problem. And then you don't have to worry about that nuisance.
Hey, I died!
So it's easy enough to get rid of the queens and clear off whatever mess this left. And then if you do that, then you can clear the room. But now, the main problem I have
Ow, that hurts!
is, as far as I can tell, there is absolutely no way to hit the last pair. So, like, the next pair is not a problem. I can hit an orb while the Fagundo dies to hit an orb, sure. There's no way for the Fagundo to hit this, because there's no way for there to be an obstacle in its way. Which means just the last two have to be, like, one of the two orbs that the Fagundo could have hit. And plate that's on an island. And like, there's no way whatsoever for a mimic to hit either of these orbs over water by itself. The only way it can do that is by being pushed. So that means that you have to get the stick mimic and have it pushing. But if I'm going to do that, then there's no way to hit the other plate. There's nothing in the room that can hit this plate. There's not, though. By the time you get to this point, there's nothing on the water, and the only thing that could be on the water is skippers to be over here, which you can't do anything with. Yeah? The Fagundo has to be gone before you can hit this. Yeah. You can't reach the stick until after you've pushed this. Because that's both the door is in the way of this mimic reaching the stick, and the mimic potion is behind this orb. Yeah, there's no way for there to be an obstacle in the Fagundo's way. You can't push a skipper into its path because you can't get the stick until after you hit one of these two orbs. So, opening this door requires the queen to spawn, which requires using one of these two orbs. One of them has to be used up. And then you get access to the power token. But now the Fagundo can only be used to kill this, which has to be done simultaneously with something, so you have to use up this other one. So after doing that, the only thing the Fagundo can do at that point is go hit an orb. There's nothing left for it to do. Because I have to hit this, and something has to happen over there at the same time. And at this point, the only options are the things that are over water, which the Fagundo has to activate. This mimic can't reach them, so the Fagundo has to die over water at the same time as this one is pressed. And then there's no way to do the last two. Yeah, I don't see a way to fix any of that. The mimic's gotta go somewhere, and it's going to need to be useful for at least 2 times. Right, it's to be useful for when it spawns, and then when the Fagundo does something. Right, if I tried to place the mimic here, then I would have a different problem, which is that I would do that when the queen spawned, and then about 3 or 4 turns later, one of the roaches would stand on one of these things, which would lock the door, and so I wouldn't be able to finish the room. So the first mimic absolutely cannot go on this plate, nor on this plate. Because the first mimic has to be somewhere where it can kill all of the roaches that get spawned before they can do something that's convenient. Yeah. Sometimes YouTube just likes to not let messages through for absolutely no good reason. I'm sorry about that. If you notice it's doing it particularly badly, I have Caramelnet chat open, so I'd be able to go look at that and see. if you're in that. I don't know, maybe I could try to have the Figundo do this when I hit the orb. I need to get rid of the queens first, which is always the case anyway.
Ow, that hurts.
Alright, then... no wait, isn't this what I always was doing? Never mind. Yeah, so I do that in second. Third. Right, queen and this orb. Get the power token. Then this orb and the Figundo. However it is that happens. And then this orb is in a way of getting access to a stick. There is no different pair. Like at the beginning of the room, I have to use...
Ow, that hurts.
At the beginning of the room, I have to use one of the middle orbs. And then after that, there's nothing else accessible.
Hey, I died.
I can't do that pair because that would require... No, I can't do that pair because Beethro would have to face north, and so the Mimic would have to bump north. But the Mimic can't hit that orb by bumping north. But... Right, the Mimic is stuck in the middle of this room. No way for it to be anywhere else. And there's no way for it to wind up. I guess the Figundo can do this. Okay, that's probably what I was missing. I was imagining that the Mimic had to hit this orb. Didn't think about the Figundo doing it. Okay. And then you get a stick.
Ow, that hurts.
And you have to be very careful to not do that.
Ow, that hurts.
Alright, well that...
I can't. Not possible.
That achieves something.
Ow, that
Unlocks
hurts.
the ability to harass health. Oh, this is interminably awkward. Maybe it would be better if I gave them both sticks. That might at least prevent stabbing incidents. there are two places where the fecundo can explode, but I still see a problem. Like, suppose...
Ralph, open the...
I can't.
Like, for sure, the two buttons on the east side are the fegundo's job, the west
The
side.
door.
Not possible.
The two plates on the west side, say, are the fegundo's job, in theory. But then, there's no way to hit the last orb. The only way to hit one of those orbs is for a mimic to push the other mimic so that its stick touches that orb. Then I can't possibly hit the other orb.
Ralph, open the...
I can't.
Yeah, but... Oh, I guess I can just...
Hey, I died.
Yeah, I could make a bumping move with one of
Not possible.
the mimics then. So instead of worrying about having the fecundo...
Ralph, open the...
I can't.
Okay. I really need to clean out the trash before things start getting complicated.
The door.
Not possible.
That's good enough. Well, I thought the skipper would move, but it won't. Oh, that's annoying. There. Now, it should be possible to make a bumping move. Shove that skipper onto the plate. Okay. I somehow got it set up before. I'm not too sure how. Maybe I just need more skippers.
Ralph, open the...
I can't.
That'll work. there. Okay, that gets rid of the nest. I'm not entirely sure about that one skipper.
At the door.
Not possible.
Can I still deal with that one?
At the door.
Not possible.
I could maybe do something like pushing and mimic that has a stick.
At the door.
Not
Maybe it has a
possible.
dagger.
Alf, open them.
I can't.
Trying to do that is kind of risky.
Alf, open them.
I can't. I can't.
That would be enough to let me push one mimic with another mimic. Okay. I am not sure this situation is solvable though. And I have to go back and prevent that from happening somehow in the middle of doing everything else.
Alf, open them.
I can't. Hey, I died.
Alf, open them.
I can't.
Okay. This time there isn't a skipper in the worst possible location. Or not necessarily the worst, but one of the worst. So that would help. Now I need to do something akin to what I did earlier. Get these two close. I must somehow prepare to push a mimic into a perfect position so that its stick hits the orb. I need to do that preparation at the same time as also ensuring that the Fugundo do its job. This has to do with fiddling with relative basings and positions of everything involved. Excuse me.
Hey, I died. Hey, I died.
Alright, that'll work. Alf is dying, that means that it will work. So I just need the Fugundo in a position where if I turn... yeah. How did this work? Oh, the Fugundo hit a wall. Okay. Great. I will say the trick of figuring out the right order to do things in is interesting. It's very tough in that tiny little area without the ability to move east or west. It's very difficult to get anything to work. There is a certain flair to, like, turning to do things with, like, moving and turning to do things with the Mimic, but bumping to do things exclusively with the Fugundo where the Mimics don't move. Anyway, what was this room? I identified what I'm supposed to do, but I don't see a way to do it. That's how this room is, as far as I remember. So basically, what needs to happen is the Enclage has to be here, has to be right here. The mimic has to be here. The force arrow has to be facing south. Because there's a diagonal line, which is hard to see even in puzzle mode with this mosaic tile. There's a diagonal line straight from, like, the button to where the mimic's sword would be if it was facing southeast and standing here. So I understand what I'm supposed to do to get access to this mimic potion, to be able to do the rest of the room. Yeah, thank you for some hints and being around. Yeah. So, I know what I'm supposed to achieve, but I could not make it happen. Like, the problem is that in order for this to work, Bethro has to be exactly north of the mimic. Like, Bethro has to be in this column. But there's no way to move things around once you have the force arrows fixed and the mimic exists and etc. There's no way to move things around so that that's actually possible. Like, the Omplitch moves no matter what I do. So, like, first I could do the chores and hit all of these force arrows by rotated tokens. And then I can go get the mimic. Or I can go try and place the Omplitch and get the mimic in some order. Which I am definitely making work harder than it really is. Yeah, it's not hard to get the Omplitch into position. But then, if I try to involve the mimic in this, it becomes basically impossible. Like, there's nothing... Okay, there is a thing here that can let me face a different direction from the mimic. No, there isn't, there isn't. Yeah. There's nothing here that can let me face a different direction from the mimic. So if the mimic's gotta face southwest, then so do I. So somehow, I'm supposed to arrange things so that first the mimic is way to my east, or due south of me. Like, I have to get the mimic in the exact perfect position relative to me, and it has to be facing the right way, and it has to move onto the force arrow. Like, the closest that I could possibly get, I think, was a situation where if the force arrow wasn't there, then I could have moved the mimic into the right position. Without like, losing the Omplitch position. Right? Like, I can do this. Right here. If I could move northwest, because, you know, if that force arrow wasn't in the way, then I could do this. I guess. If I want to move northwest. Now, where these are. Yeah, so if this was a southwest facing... Wait, what am I trying to do? Try to make sure I get this right. Yeah. So if this force arrow was facing southwest, then this might work. But that direction of force arrow is not available in this room. Right? It starts north and it rotates across the right half circle. So north, northeast, east, southeast, south is the only options, which is not good enough. Because that won't actually achieve what needs to be done. I mean, I can do this, but as soon as it's unfrozen, the Omplitch will do that. No matter how close I am to the mimic, this will always happen. It will always wake up and turn instead of saying frozen. So, as far as I can tell, the options are either have the arrow the wrong way or have it be impossible to stick beyond frozen position. I guess I'll try having the arrow the wrong way, see if that can be fixed. Doubt it. That is, can be fixed without ruining the off-switch proposition. Expected. Like, unless the force arrow is already where it needs to be, there's absolutely no way to actually reach the four corners to turn it to where it needs to be. Like, you can reach this corner, but then nothing else is going to work. Can't go east because the force arrow is basically always facing east. This only works because I can approach it this way, which is impossible if I've touched more than one of the tokens. This is great, except now I can't go east. So this doesn't work still. I'd like to start with or something. That's not possible because where I have to go to the beyond function place is way up here. Is that it? It's about the place, I guess. Alright. Now, what in the world is this supposed to be? I suspect this part is about fixing the place, maybe? So it'll hold the plate down. About that, but I don't know what else to do around this little space here. I don't see any problems with the display from what I can see, but... Okay, maybe I should back up. Start again here. Sure feels like the most sensible way to try to solve this part is by having the output look at the mimic so it stays on the button. Because there's no way that I'm getting all the way around, all the way over there and back again with the mimic holding the output in place. But I don't really see a way to hold it in place even as I try to go north. Hello. Yeah, this area is just too cramped to do anything like that with. By the way, this is basically 2 rooms instead of 1 room that's in 1 room. Like, what I did to get this far is basically already an entire puzzle room by itself. But we get an extra room tonight. Inside this one room. Feels like. So I don't get kind of credit for solving the room until I solve this other unrelated room. Which is kind of annoying. I mean, it's not completely unrelated, but there's nothing intrinsically requiring the two to be connected either. I can't really complain that well, because I've certainly made goblins and rooms before. If I could get the Elfwitch to do that on the west side, then I would be good. But it's always too close. Because there isn't a hallway to go through. There's not really a way to freeze it in place. Because this corridor is too narrow. Yes, but I wouldn't have to chug away at the second room just to be allowed to continue and try other rooms. Okay, there we go. This is what I was trying to do for a bit, hoping it will do something useful. It is pretty much what I was thinking, I guess. Yep. Alright, and finally I can kill this one Elfwitch. I think the only one in the entirety of this level. Okay. 4 rooms left. I poked this one for a long while and could not get it to work. It's a secret room anyway. These other 3 are all in kind of a row, almost. Yeah. So this is the one with the stalwart. I have no idea what's supposed to work here. Like, clearly I'm supposed to do that. Cut the tar somehow. And the stalwart's supposed to pace back and forth to cut all of the mud. But that doesn't seem to be possible to arrange. He's only going to pace back and forth if he sees, like, some obstruction on his way to the monster he's trying to kill. But, like, there's not a way to set this up that works. Geometry of the room. Like, I'm sure that the stalwart won't kill a mimic. The real problem is I can't, like, get to a useful position in nearly enough time. Mud Baby is just going to walk out into a place where it's going to kill me if I don't kill it. The Tar Baby still needs to be around, but I also need to somehow in this area, or going back and forth between this area and out here, which would always cause the Tar Baby to be able to reach me. If I try to do that. Like, there's no way to get in the Stalwart's way without the tar baby getting in my way. Not even for a single turn. Is that it? Just get far enough away. Okay. Now what? Yes, that's good enough. Alright. Thanks. Okay then. I managed to bumble my way through that one at least. So, down here, this is not the right way. I want to go south of this room to the other place. So down here, you have a trapdoor puzzle that I struggled with for a while but couldn't figure out. Ah, yeah, this incomprehensible. So, I'm not really clear how to start this room. Like, the first thing that has to happen, someone needs to stand on the plate and let someone else will get a stick. And then somehow the rattlesnake has to be stabbed. But I can see no way to do that. Since you're kind of forced to take a dagger on the way into the room, there's no way for anything to have its sword or other weapon on this rattlesnake. Like, I don't see how anything at all in this room can ever even start stabbing the rattlesnake. If it had a sword, then this would kill the this would hurt the rattlesnake and then make it possible to stab it more. But there's no way to have a sword in this area. Since you need this to go get the stick. Is this it? Something like this. I don't have a way to get all the way over there, but yeah, there's not really anything I can build against to make this possible at this point. Maybe if I could get north of this without dying, it might work. Don't see any way to do that. Excuse me. Managed to do something that kept dagger limit. It made the dagger limit go farther east. I'm not really sure what it was. Guess that's it. Somebody in the room. It's a stick. So I think I just need to keep both units alive at this point, as well as obviously I'd say just like it's easy, but apparently it's not. one required room left. I made attempts, several, at this one. So I know kinda how it works. Because of all the yellow doors and trapdoors, only one mimic can actually be placed on this bridge tile. And after that it has to go south. And that means the bridge tile goes away. Pretty sure. Maybe you could not go there. I guess if you took this one, maybe you could do a second one. But it's not particularly helpful to do that because the mimics actually get a lot in the way. So if it weren't for these mimic potions, this would be a relatively straightforward. This loop around is designed where it has to be done exactly that way. The rest would be easy. So, since you have to place at least one mimic, and since there are mimic potions in the way, you have to place at least one, and you can only place at most 2 of them. So you have to take advantage of the fact that a mimic can step on a mimic potion without generating a mimic. So I was trying to figure out which potion it's useful to take. It's very difficult to tell. The real problem is basically no matter what you do, after placing the mimic, it becomes a giant pain to do what you're actually trying to do without the mimic ruining everything. Since you have the mimic, it has to go hit all of the mimic potions that aren't the one it spawned with. I also have to do this loop around the top. And doing that causes the mimic to completely ruin everything over there. So that's no good. Yeah, and because there's only 2 trapdoors attached to the mainland, you also don't have the option of just leaving and having the mimic take care of the trapdoor puzzle for you, which would be much more convenient. I think I had concluded that basically this potion here, the north one, is almost impossible to get a mimic to reach. So it kind of needs to be the one that you use. And if that is the case, you need to use this one. And you're definitely not going to use another. Using that one causes a problem, which is that it's nearly impossible to reach that one to the southwest with this mimic without doing absolutely everything else. Like without making it completely impossible to get back with the Reaper. Like it's easy enough to take a few diagonal moves to do that motion. Getting this mimic to actually go to the other potion is difficult. Especially doing it without making it impossible to actually finish the trapdoor puzzle. I guess I can try a strategy of making the mimic sit in a corner for a while. What I had there is not going to back out. So the big problem here is that this loopback forces a sequence of moves which it's nearly impossible to do without the mimic also following those moves and ruining everything in the process. Like, this requires that you do like exactly that. And I have not yet found a way to do that without the mimic ruining everything at the same time. I don't think it's possible to get to this part and then get a potion, because you use up too many of the trapdoors doing that. Yeah, this feels very close. At some point I do have to actually stab the mimic though, so somehow I have to get back over to it. After it drops this trapdoor. Do I have something that can solve that? Alright. This room doesn't have any one great trick, it's just a very tough trapdoor puzzle. But the mimics kind of get in the way and make it more difficult. Much more difficult than it otherwise would be. Alright, I'm gonna go look at the secret room again, but I seem to remember why I can't really figure it out. Yeah, so the way the room starts, you're forced into these positions here. And so to get the west eye, you can do something like this. You can put them off by 1. And that's good enough. To get the south eye, you can do this, and again, put it off by 1. And that's fine. Notably, that releases the south eye and doesn't kill it. And I can get from... like, I found ways to get from one of those positions kind of to the other one. Like with the right kind of sliding over. And kind of get to something that'll work for this eye. But the real problem is I find it completely impossible to get into a position that'll get the northeast eye. I'm sure that I'm supposed to somehow use the south eye as an obstacle to bump the mimic against, but no matter what I do, the eye comes to be through way too fast. The only way, like the maximum usefulness of this eye is exactly 1 bump, during which the mimic most definitely will not wind up north or south of Heathrow if it wasn't already. So, like, I can try doing this first. then there's no way to wind up in a position that can get the south eye without being directly in a row, which can't work. And most of the time, this kind of thing winds up in a position where the eye is completely useless, because B-throw is closer to it than the mimic is. This wind up wind up exactly next to the mimic, which doesn't help. Now there's basically no way to move without either killing the eye or killing the throw or killing the mimic. Yeah, so essentially, this room comes down to needing to move the mimic past B-throw east-west, which just is not really seemingly possible. Like, if you're already one tile past, then you could do this to get another tile past. Like, there's just nothing there's nothing here that can do this, that can do what needs to be done. Like, you either have to move the mimic past B-throw north, south, or east, west, but neither of those works. Because it's just too far to actually do. Not taken into account. I've been over how this eye seems like it's supposed to help, but it doesn't really. I guess I can recreate that situation, which is not really helpful. I also tried finding some way to make the south eye press the plate, but the south eye comes out of here, which means it's going to always be horizontally aligned with B-throw. So unless the mimic is all the way to the east from B-throw, the eye can't help. Like, the eye will not push either of the buttons in a useful way, because it's going to be vertically aligned with B-throw no matter what. The way things are set up here, you have no choice but for B-throw to be the one who presses the central button. There's not some way to have B-throw way to the east when the eye wakes up. There's no way to keep the eye in the middle while B-throw goes east. And there's no way for the mimic to be to the east, because that's the entire problem that they're doing. I might like a hint. I struggled with this for a while before and couldn't find anything that worked. It really seems like I've tried everything, from shoving the mimic around in various ways, bumping it against the eye, trying to have the eye push one of the plates, but that didn't really work ever. That's not possible. It's not possible for that to matter. The mimic starts out facing exactly the same way you do. Doesn't it? Why would it not? Okay, I guess it doesn't, but I'm not really sure what that means. That's a very mean trick if so. Actually, that still can't matter, because if I'm trying to use the eye for the mimic to bump against or something, then the only thing that matters is which way the mimic is facing now, not which way it's facing relative to BDI. Their relative directions don't have anything to do with how they'll interact with the eye. Nor does it particularly help to have the mimic face a different direction when we're trying to have them bump against the walls. Also be part of it? I don't see how else that could possibly be true. misunderstanding one of the things you're saying. Because otherwise that does not do anything. Like, this is diagonally adjacent. There's no rotation of their swords that successfully blocks the mimic at all. I can get one apart vertically, but that's not two apart. Anyway, this whole setup requires not being like, exactly like that, being disaligned, or being off by it. It's not, already being vertically apart. It's required for me to do that. That's only one square apart. This is only one square apart. Like there's one square between them. I don't remember there being two squares between them. And I can do this regardless of facing. This doesn't depend on anyone's facing. This depends on either sword being in the way, but this works just as well if the mimic is facing north. That's... None of that depends on their orientations being different, though. Like if the mimic was facing west right now, then it would still be blocked by my sword after I go this way. I don't know. Well, I can do that, I guess. Maybe this particular helps. I guess so. It doesn't feel like that had anything to do with their orientations being different. Still, that's an extremely nasty trick. If you wanted the player to do that, then it should just be that the mimic starts out facing the opposite direction from Beefman. Because why would anyone ever not guess that the mimic just starts out facing exactly the same direction as Beefro no matter what? Like, that's how I would guess the room is set up, that when you enter, the mimic's just set to always face the same way you do. So, like, I would have guessed that entering facing west, the mimic would face west. That's just natural, like, how it obviously would be in a lot of rooms. There's nothing to call attention to the fact that the mimic is always facing north no matter what. I don't know. I think it's a neat trick to bump against things like that, but it's kind of neat to require the player to guess about changing directions to face when entering the room. And whether or not the mimic would actually be any different. Whatever, that's the mimic level. Why do I feel like I remember something? I do remember something. Roman numeral 2 is here. I bet that's hyper-advanced mimics or something. So I'm going to get credit for clearing this room first. Which I guess means doing something in the caver. We just need to simultaneously caver, right? And then this goes in the box. Alright. And then straight back inside. Okay. Yeah, well, I expected that to be a challenge level or something, so I thought I would save it for after I finished this level. But I did open the way to it. I did do the difficult version of this room, which was, get rid of 2 of the mirrors, and only have 1 mirror to work with for the rest of it. Although I think what I found tricky in this room wasn't the lack of mirrors, but the whole thing with the eye that's awake. I commented that last week that I was like, that eye doesn't have to be an eye, and it doesn't have to be a soldier it kills. It could have just been a roach, and it would have acted the same. But I guess it's an aesthetic choice to fill this room with only eyes. Anyway, yeah, the whole trick here is just double pushing a mirror. That's the trick. Having 2 less mirrors doesn't... I mean, I guess it makes fiddling around with things to get in the right position to do this harder, but I don't know, it doesn't seem that important. I suppose the easy version doesn't require you to double push the mirror because you can just put... No, you can just put 2 mirrors on the left and right sides, I guess. And then walk in until the other eye from behind. Anyway, it wasn't too bad. Alright, I'm gonna glance at this, but I don't want to do it until next time. So I'll look at this, but Order of the Stick. When Ren came rushing into the village to round up its people in a hurry, there were many who jumped at the chance. They had grown up hearing tales of a mysterious enemy who had attacked their ancestors and forced them into hiding. As the years went by, they had kept their swords sharp and their skills focused, eager for a bit of excitement when the enemy returned. And yet time passed and the day had never come until now. There were others who had spent the years quietly farming or writing poetry or making pots, hoping that the enemy would never come back and they could get on with their lives in peace. When they heard the news that they were needed to fight, they sighed and got into line with a look of rugged resignation. Their swords had not been kept sharp, so they helped themselves to sticks from the village supply of firewood. They had no idea of what was going on, and most of them had no idea of which way up to hold their weapon. But if their village or the world needed saving, they would step up and do their best. Alright, so this is some kind of stick-based level. I see clones. I see a mimic potion. Potions. I'm not seriously looking at the rooms to assess how to solve them, I'm just looking at what's there. One mimic potion. Many mimic potions there. So it looks like this will be a level about pushing things, I think. Pushing things with a stick. Pushing things with a stick. Double and triple and quadruple pushing with a stick. I'm gonna guess that's what we're looking at here. Oh yeah, look at where that guy is. Well, there's a trap door, so it might die without going. Anyway. Here's 5 minutes, push them with a stick. Okay, well, only, quote-unquote, only 8 rooms. Surely I can manage this next time? I think next Saturday should be normal. I'll put some kind of post in the forum if it's not. We'll see. But I think I'm satisfied with what I've done so far for now. Even if it took me 2 3-hour days of working on things to get through the mimic level, I did do all of it, including the secret rooms. So, yes. Thank you for watching. And have a great week.